Individual circuitry is here to be different. It's here to bring change. It does not fit in. And it's where the evolutionary impulse of humanity runs through the human design chart. For the transit that begins on October 8th, today, we have 2 gates that are highlighted that are in individual circuitry. So these gates and these energies will be inviting us to really kind of break out of the ways that we have subordinated ourselves, if you will, to cultural conditioning, and will give us an extra boost to our intuition, to our ability to see through things that are not true, but that are presented to us as if they are true. And it will give us powerful energy, intuitive energy, an energy to help break up patterns that are no longer working for us. So let's go ahead and dive in. So this transit will feel different than the one that we just are coming out of, because the one we were just coming out of was in collective circuitry and in tribal circuitry. So here we're in individual circuitry, and it's quite different. Individual circuitry is really powerful, and it's countercultural. It is the place where we receive insights and epiphanies and new possibilities and potentials that can help us see our world differently, that can help us to engage with our world differently, help us to understand who we are, and also to open up possibilities that are different than maybe what we've been told, or what you see on the news, what you hear people talking about. Now, side note here, the outer planets have been in individual circuitry largely over the last couple of years. So the big planets that are the ones that are influential, generationally influential, have been highlighting individual circuitry a lot and really calling us to be able to see things differently, to break out of patterns, break out of cultural conditioning that does not suit us. So in this particular transit, we have, like I said, 2 gates that are in individual circuitry. So let's go ahead and take a look first at the Earth in the gate 51. So the gate 51 is known as one of the gnarly gates in human design. Okay. The traditional human design name is shock, and the quantum human design name is initiation. So let's unpack this a little bit, because it's a super powerful and important energy. And if you know what it is and you know how to work with it, it can be a huge ally. But if you don't, it can really bite you in the ass, honestly. So shock, right? Shock. It can be shocking. I have this gate defined in my chart, so I know it really well. And I will say that in the course of my life, I definitely have attracted shocking situations to me. And I've also been shocking to others because I didn't really know any better. And what happens when we have these really powerful energies is sometimes they kind of come up and they act, and you don't know that that's going to happen. Like, you don't realize that you're going to be shocking. So if you see that shocking situations arise around you, or if you find yourself either creating or attracting shocking situations, or things that people say to you, or even things that you kind of say to yourself, realize that that is the power of this energy. And when it is harnessed, right, and directed with consciousness, with awareness, with presence, it can be a powerful force for change, which is why it's called initiation. So the 51 is half of the channel of the priest or the priestess or the shaman. It connects the 2 different parts of the heart chakra, which split into the G center and the will center at the end of the 18th century. And it's the only channel that connects those 2 parts of the heart together. And so the shocking part is in the will center, right? And the love of spirit is in the G center. And we actually had recently had a transit of the 25. Beautiful, beautiful energy, the love of spirit. So we have that kind of alive for a lot of us because we did just have a major transit with that. But still, the 51, initiation. So those of us who are in the spiritual growth sphere, right? And we're really committed. Those of us who are seekers, who are change makers, who are possibility thinkers, who are being ambassadors of the new world, that we are calling in something that is more equitable, that is more grounded in more universal principles, that honors the living world and honors all living beings, right? For those of us who are like that, this energy is really important because it can help to interrupt patterns that were otherwise just kind of unconsciously going along, operating out of, which is true for all of us. And some patterns are great. The ones that teach us how to walk and to talk and brush our teeth, right? We want those patterns to be orchestrating us. But the ones that tell us, for example, that we shouldn't speak up, or we might be deemed too powerful, or we might, get our heads cut off, or we might be suppressed, or we might be, damaging to other people. All that programming that keeps us quiet, for example, we want to break that up because your voice is important. What you have to say, your opinion, how you're showing up in your life, your voice is your birthright, right? Your ability to speak up for yourself. And yet many times, and this happens to me a lot when I'm doing readings for people, is sometimes people, especially if I have an open throat, have a hard time speaking up for themselves. And even people who have motorized throats, our manifesting generators and our manifestors, sometimes they also squelch their voices, right? So we want to be able to break that up, interrupt that pattern, which really comes from the outside. It's how we've been conditioned, right? Who do you think you are to be saying those things, right? That kind of crap. So we want to break that up so that we can express ourselves. So that's just an example. It can happen in a lot of different places, but the voice is a big one. And especially for women, for people of color, for people who've been, kind of pushed to the edges, right? And not seen as kind of the main people of society, which is a relatively small group of people, actually, right? So for those of us who are not in that really small group of people, and even for some of them, we want the power of this initiation energy. Because if we are going to move into higher consciousness, we have to break up some patterns, right? Like we can't just imagine it or just want it to happen. We can't think about it and have it happen. We actually have to interrupt the subconscious patterns that have been keeping us out of higher consciousness, have been keeping us in a lower vibration, have been keeping us in guilt or shame, fear. Fear is really big in the collective right now. So we need to break all of that up so that we can have more spaciousness inside of which we can then begin to express ourselves and we can grow ourselves into our full potential. So the 51 can be a huge ally for this. Now, here's the thing is breaking patterns can be shocking, right? It can be shocking. And so there is an element of that. But what I've found, I use this a lot with people and when I'm mentoring and coaching people, because I have an ability to see the way that people are stuck in old patterns, right? It's part of my individual circuitry. I have a lot of individual circuitry. I can see how people are stuck in old patterns. And so one of the things I do is help them to see that, right? And I have learned over the years to soften it, right? And have it be something that is not necessarily said with a lot of force. It doesn't really need to be said with a lot of force. But even when it comes softer, right, it can be shocking to people because it's almost like something that you sort of knew it was there, but didn't really know it was there. All of a sudden, it was like back here, right? All of a sudden it comes around and you go, oh, wow. Oh, right. That can be a shocking moment. And if there is force behind it, it can be very shocking. A lot of the sort of personal development modalities that we had in the 70s, for example, the 60s and 70s were way more in your face, right? They were shocking. They were shocking on purpose. But we've learned that we don't really need to do that. Just being able to identify the patterns that aren't working for us is enough to get the ball rolling so that we can break up the pattern. Now, there's often more work to be done there because just noticing that the pattern is there. It doesn't immediately dissipate, right? Really, that's where practice comes in, which is why I'm such a big advocate for practice, to keep paying attention to the pattern, because the patterns are wily, right? And they'll just start operating again. And you won't realize it. And, 4 days later, you'll be like, oh my God, I've just fell back into that pattern again. I can't believe I did that, right? So practice is really important for this. Now, while the earth is lighting up this gate 51, it's great because it kind of gives it this kind of weightedness and this kind of density, which is helpful, because if it's too like that, then it can really be kind of hard to both to experience in yourself and for other people to experience from each other, right? So, but when we can ground in it, right, we can stabilize it. And when we're coming from that place and we can see a pattern that's not working, and we can go, that one needs to be updated. That one needs to be changed. Then we have the ability to do that. So the earth in the gate 51 is creating this foundation for change that we have going on during this transit. Very, very powerful energy for change and for helping us to rise into higher consciousness, right? Where we can move into unity consciousness, where we can move into recognizing that we're all in this together and that we are connected with all beings, right? We can move into that state. And that's really the foundation of the new world. So it's a really good time to be giving more energy to that and to be looking for yourself, like, where have I fallen into my own patterns that I need to break up? So you can create your own breakthroughs for yourself while the earth is in the gate 51. Then the earth in the 51, it provides the foundation, right? The earth provides the foundation for the sun in the gate 57. And the sun is what we're here to shine out into the world, right? It's how we shine our light. So the 57 is in the individual circuitry. It's in the knowing circuit. It's also in the integration circuit. And it is on the spleen. And so it's splenic energy. Now, the spleen is complicated because it is the center for instinct and intuition, and it can fall into fear. Now, I talk about this extensively because we have all of the gates of the spleen lit up during the course of the month of October. So we have so much that is going on with the spleen. And I did talk in the October transit report, the major themes, a lot about the fear gates, and went through all the fear gates. So if you haven't seen that yet, you probably want to go see that. But the 57 has the fear of the future. And so this, again, is really rampant in the collective right now on the planet, which makes sense because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, right? We've got 2 wars, major wars that are happening that could break out, to being even more. And we also have earth changes. We have flooding all over the world. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So it's easy to fall into the fear of the future when that's happening. But remember, this is an inside job. And when you look outside of you and you look at those things that are happening and you let it feed your fear, fear is pretty destabilizing. Okay. Fear makes us move out of our best judgment. And so fear is not a great place to be making decisions from or to be living from. So with the sun in the 57, we want to really watch out for falling into fear of the future. Every time you notice that it happens, because it probably will, just to be like, oh, that's my 57. I'm letting it fall into the disempowered expression by going into fear of the future. So the more awakened and empowered aspect of the 57 is intuition, right? It's intuition. And everyone has different ways of experiencing and expressing their intuition. So there's not one form of intuition that's in the 57. It is really kind of a place where your intuition gets activated. Now, the truth is there's intuitive parts of the chart all over. The whole knowing circuit is highly intuitive. Individual circuitry in general is highly intuitive. So there's lots of intuition in the chart. Okay. Authorities are intuitive, lots of places. But the 57 is known as the most intuitive gate in the chart. So this is a great time if you can get a handle on that fear of the future, right? And be grounding yourself in this sense of I'm going to break up patterns, is you can break up any patterns that you have that would make you not trust your intuition. Okay. Or break up patterns of where you may be projecting your fear out into the future, right? And bring yourself back into present time and be like, okay, right here, right now. How are things? Am I safe right here in this moment? Do I have what I need in this moment? Recognizing, of course, there are plenty of people on the planet who do not have what they need right now. Okay. I'm not trying to say that they do, but for you right now, watching this video, what's the truth for you? And even if you are in a really challenging situation, to try to not project it out into the future, because then you're sending your fear into the future, and then you're going to meet the fear that you sent there when you get there in the future. You don't want to do that to yourself, right? As much as you can, you want to be really calming any fear that you have. Lots of breath work, deep breathing, Kundalini yoga. I love doing Kundalini yoga. I recommend it all the time. Lying on the earth, getting your really grounding in the earth, right? Drinking plenty of water, all these kind of basic things to help you to deal with any fear that happens to arise, because you do not want to let it take over. This is a potential, right? If you go into shock and you go into the fear of the future, this particular transit is going to be really hard for you. Okay. It's going to be full of pitfalls and anxiety. So do yourself a favor and choose not to do that. And then the other thing is, notice that this is going to be influencing everybody. So if you find that other people are falling into fear of the future, or other people are resorting to shock, right? Be forewarned. Now, you can also just distance yourself. This is only going to go on for 5 days, right? You can distance yourself, but you can also potentially help other people learn how to navigate these kind of powerful energies, just to say, you know what? There's a lot happening in the cosmos right now. Let's just try to come back to center, right? Let's try to calm down. Let's see where we need to break up patterns, but let's do it with love. Let's do it with care. Let's do it with compassion. Let's do it with the intention of being focused on the highest good for all, not because we enjoy shocking people, because that can give you a sense of power, but you don't want to do that. If you've been loving the transits and you want to find out more, I'm going to do a special event inside of our Becoming Sovereign Quantum Retreat Center on October 22nd. That's a Tuesday at 4 p.m. And I'm going to invite you to come and learn more about the transits. This is an opportunity for me to get to share with you how you can actually use your own human design chart, and you can look at the transits and how to put them together. And I'm also going to give you some information about understanding how the transits work and how you can make them really be allies for you in your life rather than liabilities. So go ahead and look for the link for that I'll put down below. And I hope you'll come and join us. It'll be free to join. And I'd love to see you there. Okay. Many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.